Good evening, everyone's. Welcome to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. Good to see everybody tonight. And happy Wednesday. What a beautiful day it has been today. This is my time of year. I love fall and spring. If we could get rid of the falling leaves and the pollen, they would be perfect seasons. Other than that, absolute perfection. But we love you guys. We miss you. We're so glad you're connecting with us tonight. We are continuing our series on the power of now. Tonight's teaching is going to be in your face. It's going to help us to wake up. It's going to help us take a deeper look at ourselves. And I'm excited because I know it's going to be really inspirational in bringing us to a conversation at the end where we will learn from each other. And so, once again, welcome to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, where the whole household of God is both welcomed and wanted. We live above label at Spirit and Truth. We live above race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, political party, country, culture, geography. Yes, we're connected to all those things, and in some ways, they are part of our identity, but we are so much bigger than all of those things. We are eternal spirits having a temporary human experience and expression. We know that the human family that is divided cannot come back together with all these labels and divisions and separations and segregations getting in our way. And so we encourage you tonight with us to worship the Father and Mother God in spirit and in truth. On up a little bit higher. All right, so we're going to begin tonight with just a little bit of review of our introduction, where we've been in the power of now, because I want to give some time at the end. I really believe this is going to open up an interesting conversation tonight. We have been choosing not to put labels on things like good or bad experiences. We're not trying not to see them as good or bad. We're trying to separate ourselves from it so that we're not emotionally tied to it. We don't pick up some sense of false identity by the experiences that we go through. We are choosing biblically not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so in that framework, we are entertaining the idea that we are not our thoughts. We are not the thinker of our thoughts, but we are the observer of the thinker who is having the thoughts. That's two different levels of separation from your thoughts. And so we say at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary all the time, you're not your beliefs. You are the spirit capable of having beliefs, considering beliefs, challenging beliefs, changing beliefs, exchanging beliefs, beliefs unfolding in you. But you're not the belief. You're the entity capable of having the belief. So in this teaching, we've gained another level of consciousness, and that is we're not the thoughts. We're not the mind that has the thoughts. We're the observer of the mind having the thoughts. So in that way, not only are you bigger than your thoughts, you're bigger than the search engine. You're bigger than the software. You're bigger than the ability to have the thoughts. You're the observer of that. And when you're able to separate from that, you can see rightly. You can rightly divide the way to change your thoughts, because you're bigger. You're bigger than your thoughts. And so that's just a little introduction. We are becoming aware of the voice of conditioning in our minds. Any type of cultural, collective cultural mindset we've inherited from family, race, religion, gender. All of these are filters that affect how we interpret present situations. Okay. That's just a quick introduction. As always, we would love for you to comment regularly tonight, and we'll try to get to most of those. And if there are some that are similar, we'll try to group them together and speak to those issues and just keep the conversation going. As always, you can download your notes tonight and your event description and follow right along with us. Without any further introduction, come on, close those eyes, take a big deep breath. As we take and give that breath, we celebrate tonight the beginner's mind. We agree with the idea, as Jesus taught us, that it takes a childlike mind to enter into the kingdom. So we come tonight inquisitive, curious, questioning, reasoning. God, we thank you tonight that we are fully aware that faith comes by hearing and not by having heard. We have heard of old, but Spirit is saying tonight. So it is in the name, nature, nurture, person, presence, principle, and power of the Christ man, mind, and mystery we pray. We say, let there be light, let there be awakening. Let there be aha moments tonight. Let there be reasoning in this place and space together. In Christ's name we pray, amen. And so it is. All right. This is our prayer of surrender. This is our way of preparing our minds, hearts, the soil of our consciousness, turning up that dirt, giving room so that that seed can fall on good ground. It's what we call the invitation of truth. This is really our only liturgy at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. I invite you, if you will, let's read it together tonight. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will. Awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me. The Christ mind is in me. The Christ power flows through me. And the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it. I perceive it. Now I receive it. I am surrendered. Amen. And so it is. All right. We have been asking questions more recently, like basis, but the purpose of that question is to ask, have you identified your life by your problems, by your pain, by your suffering, by your past, by your scars, by your fear, by your insecurities? So the question is, who are you without those things, without the problems, without the remembrances of them, without the memory of experiences? The answer is, you are the spirit that is capable of having experiences, capable of perceiving problems, capable of experiencing hurt. But the question is, have you identified yourself with the hurt, with the pain, with the problems, or have you identified yourself with the mind, the spirit capable of having experiences? That's a big question that we've been asking. What if you actually don't have problems, but only situations that can be turned into problems by the way we approach them? All right, tonight we're going to talk specifically on the subject of wherever you are, be there totally. Wherever you are, be there totally. I took a class in college, part of pastoral counseling, 20, almost 30 years ago now. And part of our learning each day, each week that we had the class, was we called it, even those that many years ago, being fully present in the room. Meaning, I'm present, I am both listening, observing, I'm aware of what I'm hearing, I'm aware of the filters I'm using, and how I'm aware of the judgments I'm making about what I'm hearing. I'm completely in the room. I'm not thinking about the future, the past. I'm trying not to project my past theology into this present teaching. I'm fully present at this moment in the room. And so hopefully tonight we can be fully present. Let's begin. Ordinary unconsciousness is always linked in some way with the denial of the now. The now, of course, also implies the here. Are you resisting your here and now? Some people would always rather, watch this, be somewhere else. Some people would always rather be somewhere else. Their here is never good enough. Through self-observation, find out if that is the case in your life. Okay, so let's stop and put this into practice a little bit tonight. Let's take a moment in some sense of honest self-reflection, which is very difficult. I understand that. And there's no grade being given. You're the only person grading you on this exercise. Do you find yourself always picturing yourself to be somewhere else? Some other geographical place, some other time and place and space? If so, don't judge it, just be aware of it. We're learning not to judge it, we're just the awareness of it. And in the awareness, we can see it and hopefully shift it. Wherever you are, be there totally. If you find your here and now intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have three options. So this is only the second paragraph. We're about to get smacked right in the face tonight. It smacked me pretty good. So here it is. If you find your here and now intolerable, something you just I can't take what my present situation is, makes me unhappy. We only have three options, and here are the three options. Number one, remove yourself from the situation. Number two, change it. Number three, accept it totally. That is the way that it is, right there. It is what it is. Okay, let's go through it again. If I'm unhappy in my present situation, I want to be somewhere else. I want to be in some other experience. I have three options. I can remove myself from my present situation. I can change it, revolutionize what I'm experiencing in my present situation, or I can acquiesce and just accept it totally. Okay? So, spirit and truth, there it is. Remove yourself, change it, or accept it. But here's the key in the whole thing. Okay? Whatever you choose, whether you choose to remove yourself, change it, or accept it, whatever your choice is, be cognizant that there is a choice. Okay, so let me see if we can break this down. Whatever you choose is not where the judgment lies. If you choose to remove yourself, okay, you've taken a step. If you choose to change it, congratulations, you've been proactive. You've chosen not to run from it, but chosen to change it. Sometimes it's not possible, I get it. Number 3, you've chosen to completely accept it. Sometimes we do have to say it is what it is. I admitted last week there's some obligations I have right now. I can't really change them. I can change them, but I don't want to. And I'm not willing to do that. But I want to be cognizant that I'm choosing to accept it right now. So whatever it is, okay, whatever choice we make about our present situation, if we're unhappy, we have to admit, realize, be cognizant there is a choice. We are making a choice. We are divine creatures at all times creating. We are, watch this, created by God, creative like God, and creating as gods. We're creating right now by the way that we see those 3 options. If you say that none of those are an option, you're creating denial. You're creating some sense of denial. Okay? So let's relate this to a teaching that we use a lot at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. In the Genesis blueprint of divine creativity, okay, God said, God saw, God surveyed, and then God shifted. Okay, God said, let there be light. God saw what he said. He saw the light. He surveyed it. God said the light was good. Okay, and then watch this. If God surveyed what he created and did not like it, he shifted it. God said, let us make man. God saw the man that he created, the human that he created. God surveyed that the man was good, but, watch this, it was not good that the man should be alone. And so God shifted that. Everybody sense that? Okay? So that is in some way us taking responsibility for our divine creativity. We can remove ourselves from the situation. We can shift it. Okay? Or we can totally accept it. And that is us co-creating or agreeing to the divine creative process. Keep coming. If you want to take responsibility for your life, you must choose one of these 3 options. And you must choose now. Here's the thing. Whether you say you are choosing or not, you are choosing. If you say I'm not choosing anything, you've chosen to accept it. But in the acceptance, you can accept it from a negative connotation, as in denial or defeat, or there are ways to accept things that don't come with a negative vibration. Let's keep coming, okay? We must choose now one of those 3 options. Then, watch this, accept the consequences. No excuses, no negativity, no psychic pollution. Keep your inner space clear. Let's talk some church talk here, especially some Southern church talk this evening. Once you choose either to remove yourself from it, okay, to change it, or to accept it, after that, there's no devil blaming, okay? There should be no sin shaming. There should be an acceptance of your divine responsibility to create your life experience from those 3 options. I'm going to tiptoe into 2 areas, and I hope that we trust each other enough to allow me to speak that, and I don't take this privilege lightly. Years ago when I was a teenager, I would go with my friends to different places and malls, and we'd be out and see people wearing shirts that said "Back to Africa." And I used to think, what does that mean? I'm a white kid, growing up in a kind of as a minority in a predominantly black area, school, church, all these things. And so I would ask, I mean, that was the beauty of my life, is that I had trusted friends that knew that we loved each other. And I would just ask, why don't you want to stay in America? Why do you want to go back to Africa? I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay here. Stay here with me. Let's work this out. And they graciously would explain to me, several of them would say, the American experience for Black people has been hurtful. It's been difficult. It's been oppressive. I've experienced discrimination, even out now in a majority, a mall that's mostly patronized by African Americans with African American businesses. I still feel unwelcome here at times. And so through our honest dialogue and friendship, they kind of were able to express to me why they felt that way. I used to think, don't run from it. But now, as almost approaching 50, I get it even more. And so look at the three options again. I can change it. Okay, I've lived in America my whole life. I've tried to change it. I haven't been able to change all of it, but there has been some change. I mean, woo, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, there's been some wonderful things, civil rights. I mean, yes, but it's still, as Dr. King said, the arc of the universe slowly bends toward justice. That's the frustrating piece. Yes, it's heading toward justice, but it feels like delayed justice at times. So if I can't change it or change it with the pace that I want to change it, can I accept it? Okay, can I put myself in an environment where I'm around people that I'm not made to feel that way. I don't want to leave anymore. I'm around loving people. I'm around people who don't carry a lot of prejudice and bias and who are inclusive by nature. So that's in a way accepting or creating an environment that you can accept or changing to some degree. But I used to be a little more critical of removing yourself from the situation completely. Sometimes, I don't care if it's the country you live in, if it's the family you belong to, it could be a marriage, it could be a job, it could be a neighborhood, it could be a school, it could be a church, it could be a religion. Sometimes you've tried to change it, you've tried to accept what you could accept out of it, but you just can't find happiness in those options. And so you do have to just completely remove yourself. I know some of you maybe had to make that difficult decision with friends, sometimes with family members. It is a difficult decision to make, but at least it is a proactive decision that you're making. I'm studying right now. I'm just finishing up my first semester in my Master's of Theological Studies work. One of my classes is on Judaism, and my professor is a Jewish man, and Dr. Berger is a fantastic teacher. I perceive that he is somewhere between Orthodox and Reform Judaism. I'm not sure. I kind of get different takes from him sometimes. But we're learning about in the Jewish diaspora, when they were basically, watch this, similarly to African Native Africans who were taken out of their country, that desire sometimes to go back to their homeland. Jews have that same feeling. They're in this, what they call the Jewish diaspora. They're part of other nations, but they still feel this homeland. I belong in Israel. I belong in Jerusalem. I belong in Palestine. I belong in Judea. I'm here in this country, and I love this country, but there's something in me that connects to my homeland. And so he was talking about the Jews in different Eastern European countries that tried to assimilate. They tried to be part of the society. They tried to work similar jobs. They tried to be inclusive of having friends that weren't Jewish, but it still wasn't enough. And they still weren't completely accepted in those places and spaces. And so as much as they wanted to also be Germans, they also wanted to be Frenchmen or Americans, because they were not fully embraced in society, there was still this lingering desire to go back to Israel. It reminded me of my experience as a teenager, talking to my friends saying, why do you want to go back to Africa? I don't understand it. Now at 47, it's not that I didn't understand it then, but it starts really taking on more understanding that sometimes removing yourself from a situation is not really an admission of defeat or failure. It's just, I have tried to change it. I've tried to accept it. I just can't find happiness with it. Maybe I need to remove myself. I get it at times. I certainly get it. Sometimes I'll admit this, as a Southerner, I feel that way. I don't like our painful history. I don't like to see Confederate flags and people saying it's not hate, it's heritage. I don't want to even have that argument anymore. I don't want to live in that. I don't want to live around that. So instead of me leaving the South, I've chosen to accept that I can create an environment called Spirit and Truth Sanctuary where inclusion and love and coexistence and celebration and diversity can flourish. I choose not to associate with a lot of things that happen in the South, but if I am here, I choose to create an environment that I feel happy in. And that way I can get it, and we can be proactive in those things. Okay, let's keep coming. If you take any action, leaving or changing your situation, watch this, drop the negativity first, if at all possible. Action arising out of insight into what is required is more effective than action arising out of negativity. Look at that. Action arising out of insight rather than action arising out of negativity. What does this mean? For every experience that we have, give thanks for it. You may feel bad, it may feel negative, it may feel harmful or destructive in some ways. You are not the experience. I don't care how hurtful it was. You are the spirit capable of having that experience. Do not let your identity become a false identity or a heavy pain body by allowing your experience to tell you that's who you are. You are not the experience of America. You are not the experience, as I call myself, a recovering Christian, having to come out of some very closed-minded doctrines as a child, and I feel like I was raised in a pretty progressive Christian church. I can't imagine what other people have been through. Yes, I went through those things, but that's not who I am. I'm not the experience of that. I'm the spirit capable of having that experience. Give thanks for it. Watch this. It has in some way worked together for my good, for your good. I will not carry around the negativity into my next season. All right. I heard somebody say one time that they were looking for a perfect church. They're just looking for a perfect church, and they're always unhappy with different churches. And so this person eventually joined my church. And he said, Pastor, I feel like I found a perfect church. I said, well, here's the bad news. It was perfect before you came. And he looked at me like, how dare you say that to me? I mean, remember I said, I'm joking with you. What I want to tell you is the only thing that's imperfect about this church is that people think it's perfect. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. No pastor, no church, no worship service, no teaching, no person you sit on the pew with, no parking lot, no children's ministry. None of it's ever going to be perfect. And so we have to learn to rise up above sometimes even criticisms to say, I do enjoy the experience. It's not exactly what I want, but it sure is close, and I give thanks for it. Okay? If we move on from one church, one career, one job, one country to another, give thanks. I give thanks for what I've learned. They haven't been gravestones. They've been stepping stones, taking me into higher revelation. So we approach the next season, not with negativity. Even if we have to leave and dismiss ourselves from something, we give thanks for it. We walk into the next season with the right mind. Okay. Any action is often better than no action, especially if you have been stuck in an unhappy situation for a long time. If it is a mistake, watch this, at least you learn something, in which case it's no longer a mistake. And so, action, if you're unhappy, is not a mistake. Paralysis is what's a mistake. Remaining stuck, feeling victimized, feeling helpless, hopeless, powerless, that's the only mistake. Try, assert yourself. Try and try again. If at first you don't succeed, keep on with it. The only negative thing is inaction. And so any action is better than no action, especially if you've been stuck for a while. If it turns out that your action was a mistake, watch this. It's not a mistake in the big picture, because I learned, okay, I'm not happy with this. I'm taking proactive measures to change some things. Maybe this wasn't the right thing, but I'm no longer stuck. I know that I can continue to try to take action to try to create a better life for myself. Sometimes, watch this, progress is making new mistakes. So making the same mistake over and over again is just insanity, not learning from it. But at least if you're making a new mistake, well, by God, I tried something new. I'm not happy with what I'm experiencing. So this didn't work. Let me try something. That may be a mistake too, but at least there's progress. in the fact that it's a failed attempt at creating something new. Do you know that Thomas Edison, who I believe created at least the ability to house a light bulb, went through like 700 different models of a light bulb before he got what he wanted. And so would you say that he failed 699 times? Probably yes. But in those failures, he was making new mistakes. He was not stuck in inaction. He was trying something where he finally figured out, okay, this is what I originally pictured. Okay, keep going. If you remain stuck, you learn nothing. Is fear preventing you from taking action? Acknowledge the fear. Look at that. Don't judge it. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge the fear. Watch it. Take your attention into it. Be fully present with it. Doing so cuts the link between the fear and your thinking. Don't let the fear rise up into your mind. Use the power. Use the power of now. Fear cannot prevail against it. So, Jesus said it this way. Why say there are 4 months and then comes the harvest? Lift up your eyes now. The fields are already ripe unto harvest. We used to sing a song, if you've been at Spirit and Truth Cathedral, Chapel Hill for any number of years. Anthony Lockett, one of my favorite people in the world, wrote a song called Do It Now. And we sing it jokingly in my house all the time. If somebody says, I got to do this, I don't feel like doing it, I'll just start singing, do it now. Stop feeding procrastination. And I don't remember the exact words. Get down to it. And then it went, do it now. My kids hate me. My wife thinks I'm ridiculous for singing it. But there is truth in the song, even though it's a lot of words crammed in there. Feeding procrastination sometimes happens out of fear, sometimes out of laziness, sometimes out of a lack of knowledge. Whatever it is, the trying is not the biggest mistake. The inactivity is the biggest mistake. Okay. If there is truly nothing that you can do to change your here and now, and you can't remove yourself from the situation, okay, then accept your here and now totally by dropping all inner resistance. Now, think about the difficult moments of accepting something that you don't like. It's a difficult, very difficult moment. Think about at the Last Supper, Jesus sitting there with the 12 apostles, and he looks at Judas, and he says, Judas, what you must do it quickly. In other words, I can't really change it. I can, but I don't want to change it. I want to speak the language of blood. I want to redeem not just the soul of man, but reconcile the mind of man. I want there to stop this whole thing of sacrifices and going to the temple and killing animals and thinking that you're appeasing God's anger somehow. I do want to reconcile the mind of man. And so I'm going to give into it. I'm going to step forward into it. Look what Jesus did. When they came to get him out of Gethsemane, they said, we're looking for Jesus of Nazareth. He stepped forward and said, I'm he that you're looking for. When he talked to Pilate, he stepped into it. When he talked to Herod, he stepped forward into it. It wasn't the most pleasant moment, but in his lack of resistance, he gave himself to the moment that he had to face. You know how many times in my life I've laid in bed at night knowing the next morning I've got to face something very, very difficult? I would get up, I'd walk outside, I'd look at the stars, and I would tell myself, this is just a blip on my radar. This is just one moment. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be humiliating. But I'm going to step into it. I'm going to step forward into it. I'm going to own this moment. I'm not going to resist it. And now, 15, 20 years later, I live a happy life because I don't live in resistance. There are some things that are unavoidable in our lives. There's no reason to have to face it with all this negativity. It's got to be done. Don't resist it. What we must do, let's do it more quickly. Keep coming. The false, unhappy self that loves feeling miserable, resentful, or sorry for itself can then no longer survive. My God. How many of us would admit somewhere down deep in your heart, you love feeling sorry for yourself at times, misery that you feel loves a little bit of company, the resentment that you feel at times? Yeah, don't judge it. Just admit that it's there. All of us have wanted someone to feel sorry for us at times. All of us have wanted someone to say, oh, I feel so bad for what you've been through. Yeah, it feels good. It has felt good in my life. Admit that it's there. Watch this. And don't allow there to be a false sense of identity from that thing. It is there. It's okay. But that's not who I am. Okay. It can no longer survive if you recognize it. This is called surrender. Surrender is not weakness. There is great strength in it. Only a surrendered person has spiritual power. Through surrender, you will be free internally of the situation. Wow. You may then find that the situation changes without any effort on your part. In any case, whether it does or it doesn't, you're free from the false identity of the situation. All right, keep coming. Or is there something that you should be doing, but you are not doing it? The Apostle Paul said, the thing I wish to do, I don't do. The thing I shouldn't do, that's the thing I do. Oh, wretched man, who will deliver me from this body of death, is how Paul said it. Then he went on to talk about the sin of commission and the sin of omission. There are some sins that I commit. There are some sins that I commit by not doing certain things. Yeah, it's not that it's the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is not realizing of what you're doing. Is there something that you should be doing and you're not doing it? Watch this. Get up and do it now. Watch this. Alternatively, or if you don't want to do it now, completely accept your inactivity, laziness, or passivity at this moment, if that is your choice. Isn't that beautiful? So if there's something you should be doing, two choices. Get up and do it now. If you don't do it now, don't make excuses. Don't say it can't be done. Admit your inactivity. Admit you're procrastinating. Admit I'm being passive in this moment. But admit that it's your choice. In other words, go into it fully. So if you're gonna be lazy for a day, be fully lazy. No, I am procrastinating. I admit that I'm procrastinating. Go into it fully. If you're going to engage in an activity, do it with all your might. But be conscious of what you're doing. Tolle says it this way. Go into it fully and embrace your laziness. Enjoy it. Be as lazy or as inactive as you can be. Is that crazy? Sometimes in the freedom of hearing someone say that, you are freed to both be lazy, but now that the condemnation on the inactivity is gone, the judgments are gone, that's not keeping you anymore from getting up and being active. If you watch this, if you go into it fully and consciously, you will soon come out of it. That's how Paul kind of taught about grace. There's a lot of misteaching on grace. I've taught grace for many, many years, pastored a church called Grace. I have studied Pauline grace in all of his epistles. I'm studying it more deeply now than I ever have in my life with my New Testament interpretation classes. Grace is a very beautiful thing and a very dangerous thing. What does that mean? Grace is not a license. It is a license to sin because there's nothing you can do to separate yourself from the love of God. But it can be misused if you feel like I can just do anything I want to. You can. But there's going to be a consequence or a karmic reaction of those choices. It's not God judging you or punishing you. It's the universe of action and reaction, of give and take, of sowing and reaping. These are just universal laws of how this works. And so, Paul, knowing this, says to his disciples, yes, where sin abounds, grace abounds much more. However, we should not use grace as an occasion to sin. Then Paul says, one of you would ask me, should I sin that grace might abound? Certainly not. How can I continue in something that I've died from? So Paul goes on further and says, look, I'm free from the law. I don't live under the law anymore. That's not even a part of my life. However, all things may be lawful for me. It doesn't mean they're expedient. It doesn't mean they bring productivity and positivity and health into my life. I'm free to try any drug, gamble my money away, run around with as much women and craziness as I want to do, kill somebody. Yeah, I'm free to do those things and still be loved by God. It doesn't mean that those things are expedient in my life. It doesn't mean I'm creating for myself the life experience that I want to have. And so we have to be very cautious as we enter into grace that we don't become helpless. So when Paul says this, Romans chapter 7, verses about 5 and 6, Paul says, it was by the law that I learned how to sin. In other words, the more you taught law, the more my sinful passion was aroused. That's New King James, Romans chapter 7, 5, and 6. The more you forced me to do something, the more I felt like I had to do it, the more the law caused me to sin. The more the forbidden fruit, push me in that area. So if we remove the law, watch this, we remove the occasion to sin because of the law. It doesn't mean that we continue or do things that harm ourselves or others. And so we have to kind of look at that. When he says go into it fully and consciously, you'll soon come out of it. He's taking the sting of the psychology or the psychosis out of it. He's saying don't judge it. But in the non-judgment, you will be able to soon come out of it. Or he says maybe you won't. Either way, there is no inner conflict, no resistance, and no negativity. Are you stressed? Are you so busy getting to the future that the present is reduced to a means of getting there? Stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there, or being in the present but wanting to be in the future. It's a split that tears you apart inside. To create and live with such an inner split is insane. Listen to that. I want to be in the future, but I want my now to be. All of that projecting and forecasting creates insanity at some point. The fact that everyone else is doing it doesn't make it any less insane. The fact that everyone else is not living in the now doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it healthy. If you have to, you can move fast, work fast, or even run without projecting yourself into the future and without resisting the present. It's really good. We're coming to the last part of the teaching. Hang on with me. As you move, work, run, do it totally. That's how Scripture says, do it with all your might. Whatever your hands finds, do it with all your might. Enjoy the flow of energy, the high energy at the moment. Now you are no longer stressed, no longer splitting yourself in two, just moving, running, working, and enjoying it. My mother used to say, I think it was from maybe Snow White, the cartoon Snow White, whistle while you work. Just whistle while you work. And she would get on my sister and me if we didn't want to help do dishes or we didn't want to help clean the house. We were complaining. She would say, hey, whistle while you work. And my sister, if you're watching tonight, she would say, come on, come help me wash these dishes. We'll have a big time. In other words, my mother tried to take the sting out of the work. Yes, we have to wash it. Yes, we got to clean the kitchen, but let's laugh while we do it. Let's enjoy each other while we do it. There are jobs that I have to do every week that are not pleasant. They just are not pleasant. But I don't allow the stress of it to affect my unhappiness. Do I wish I could change it? Yes. Can I change it in this present moment? No, I cannot. And so I have to accept it. I accept it totally and say, okay, let's make the best of it. Let's lean into it without resistance. And somehow in that, I find some level of enjoyment and tolerability as I lean into it. Or, watch this, enjoying it. Or you can drop the whole thing and sit on a park bench. But when you do, watch your mind. It may say, you should be working. You're wasting time. Observe the mind and smile at it. Wow, that's powerful. Now you are the observer, seeing what the mind is thinking and the thoughts that the mind is bringing. I'm even standing back and smiling at it. I'm smiling at what my mind is trying to tell me who I am. I'm not that thing. I'm thinking that thought, but I'm not that thought right now. I love it how Tolle has us leaning into this thing as becoming the observers. Does the past take up a great deal of your attention? Do you frequently talk and think about it, either positively or negatively? The great things that you have achieved, your adventures or experiences, or your victim story and the dreadful things that were done to you, or maybe what you did to someone else. Are your thought processes creating guilt, pride, resentment, anger, regret, self-pity? Then you are not only reinforcing a false sense of self, but also helping to accelerate your body's aging process by creating an accumulation of past in your psyche. Wow. I underlined this in my notes. Verify this for yourself by observing those around you who have a strong tendency to hold on to the past. Do you notice people who hold on to the past? Do they seem older, look older, feel older, act older, or older than they should be acting? Do you know someone who only lives in the past? And maybe it's you. That's okay. Admit it. Watch this next sentence. Die to the past every moment. Every moment, die to the past. The Apostle Paul said it this way. I die daily. Daily I die. Man, that applies to hurt, projections of success in the future. Watch this. It applies to theology. There is a daily bread, a living word. Jesus says, I know you guys have heard of all, but I say to you, I die to the past every moment. I die daily so that God can speak to me as a clean conduit. You don't need it. You don't need the past every moment. Only refer to it when it is absolutely relevant to the present. Feel the power of this moment and the fullness of being. Feel your presence. Wow, I hope I've not gone too long. I went a little longer than I wanted to. It's just such a powerful teaching. Come on and talk to me, everybody. Let's talk about this thing.
Well, early on, Miss Tamara admitted I had to move from Indiana to here, to Atlanta, because I couldn't take the negativity of home anymore. We were talking about that early. That's
okay. It's a good admission. Maybe in your experience, you tried to change it. Then you tried to accept it for a while. Those weren't mistakes. Trying to change it wasn't a mistake. Trying to accept it totally wasn't a mistake. It led you to the only option that worked for you. I do have to separate myself. Congratulations. You took a step in creating the life that you want to experience.
Cheryl shared, one of my favorite Tolle quotes is, when you complain, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. All else is madness. Pastor D.E.'s teaching this evening aligns with this quote.
Isn't that good? I love that, Cheryl. We talked this past Sunday about not giving your power away. And complaining gives the power away. Being a victim gives the power away. Because you're admitting that the divine power in you is, and watch the subtle ways that we give our power away. I'm going to go to a church conference and get power. I'm going to get an anointing by the laying on of hands. Someone's going to, watch this, someone's going to impart a blessing to me. Someone's going to speak a word over me. All these are power sources that we're looking for outside of ourselves. The late great teacher, Dr. Miles Monroe, said this. He said, the greatest enemy to the kingdom of God being here now is that it's always on its way. That was kind of the basis of his whole teaching. Kingdom is now. Kingdom is within. Stop gazing into the heavens. Today is the day the Lord has made. Today is the day of salvation. So, the power that we need is already here. Watch this. God will do exceedingly abundantly more than we could ask or think, according to the power, working in us. That is the scripture verbatim. The power is not coming. It's not on the way. It's in us. And so the complaining, the projecting of some pastor's going to give me power, some boss is going to give me power, some government official is going to give me power. Of course we want to agree. We want to be coexistent. We want to get along with bosses and government leaders. But it is not necessary to wake up to your power. They cannot give you power. They can help make you a little more comfortable at times, but only you have the power within you. Chris and Benny sing it all the time. Only you have the power within you. That is maybe the greatest teaching you'll ever get at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. I can't give you power. I can't take your power. You can give it away. All I can do is wake you up to the power that you already have. Very, very powerful, Cheryl.
Well, your sister did write in and acknowledge we're going to have a big time. And
Let's have a big time.
For the record, never did I have a big time washing dishes.
I'm just letting you know for the record. Let me tell the story, then I'll let you finish if she had something. So, LaDonna, I was probably 13 years old, and she was, I guess, about 20 or so. And so, Dottie Rambo, the great gospel artist, lyricist, my goodness, just one of the greatest Christian gospel artists of all time, just powerful music. She had sung at our church that morning and then came to our house to eat that afternoon. And so her and her husband pulled up in their big Cadillac, and they came in, and she was all fabulous with her rhinestones and her big long fingernails. And so when we finished eating, Dottie Rimbo got in her Cadillac and drove off, went back home, drove back to where she lived. And so my mother says to LaDonna and me, hey, children, come in here and help me clean the kitchen. We'll have a big time. Come on, we'll have a good time cleaning this kitchen today. So my sister said, Mama, I just want to get in my Cadillac and take my long fingernails and just drive back to my house somewhere. She was saying, I just want to be Dottie Rambo today. But as you get older, you realize Dottie Rambo had to do dishes. She had to do things that she didn't necessarily like. You think growing up in poverty as she did, in the Appalachian Mountains was a piece of cake for her? No. There were moments that they were hungry. They didn't have enough food in the house. And so we project that onto other people. Watch this. You know my glory, but you don't know my story. All of us have a story. All of us have things that we hide at times, and pain that has produced powerful things in our lives. But as LaDonna said, as much as we wanted to, we probably never had a big time washing Dottie Rambo's dishes.
She did actually quote one of your favorite artists and said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Do you know who said that? Nah, if you're it. Rush.
Bono? Oh, yeah. Rush, yes. Tom Sawyer and the Limelight. LaDonna, my sister introduced me to a lot of music that I was unaware of as a teenager. I was breakdancing and only listening to rap and a little bit of R&B, and my sister introduced me to this whole political rock and roll world, and I got to know Lenny Kravitz and Prince and all these people. But choosing to not choose is a choice. And so watch this. Don't judge it. Don't judge that you haven't made a choice. Be aware that you haven't. That you've chosen not to make a choice. And in that awareness and the observation of the non-choosing, you gain your power, or you wake up to your power.
Richard shared, unfortunately, many of us fail because we, remove ourselves and try to change without totally accepting reality. Denial and not accepting are procrastination traps that only delay that which is ultimately going to happen.
Whew! You done laid me out again, Richard. Wow. Denial of what is, okay, keeps us from the proactive choices. Okay? So, if I can say it this way, Richard, accepting what is merits knowing what is. I can say that I accept what is, but if you're in denial of what is, you're not accepting it. You're denying that it exists. So, when I deal with my life as a pastor, as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a brother, as a provider, as providing for me, my own health, my own life, my own mental, I have to, watch this, first acknowledge what is. I've got to come out of denial and say, this is what it is, and then I can choose away from denial. That's the only way really that we can do it. And so I can change it, I can totally accept it, or I can remove myself from it. But until I'm aware of the truth of the situation, I cannot proactively, as Richard said, it's just putting off the inevitable of what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, Fred shared, I acknowledge that I have been stuck, but I decided to do something. I surrendered to the outcome, even if that's doing nothing, which is procrastinating. But I think, right. I guess my question is, to kind of follow up on that, because I would think a lot of us, would identify with the idea of procrastinating. And I like that Tolle kind of frees us and says, hey, look, when you're working, you think, oh, I'm a workaholic. So here comes the judgment, all right? I'm a workaholic, I should be resting. But if I just choose to go sit on a park bench, I sit on the park bench and I think I should be working. Or that's where procrastinating comes in. Am I procrastinating, or am I taking time for me, which is resting now? But my question, is procrastination in itself obviously exists, but is it a judgment? Mm-hmm. And that's where become the observer of our thoughts. Yes, we have things to do, but I made a choice to sit on this park bench. Right. So am I procrastinating, or am I practicing self-care? Yeah.
Well, let me give you some great examples of the life of Jesus. Okay. When he was 12 years old, okay, 12. Think about the work ethic that he had at 12. His parents go as is the Jewish custom to present him to that's what the bar mitzvah comes from, is Jews were presented. Boys, when they turned 13, were considered really part of the Jew. They made a conscious choice to be part of the Jewish nation. They go to take Jesus to present him to the high priest. Jesus stays there after he's presented. He is teaching, he's listening, he's asking questions. Well, in the hustle of all that, Jerusalem was a very cosmopolitan city, just people in and out all the time. Mary and Joseph lost him. They're on the way walking back home, and they say, "Hey, where's Jesus? Did you see? Was he with some of our family? Where is he?" They go back and find him. He's in the temple. And Joseph, his father, says to him, "Why have you done this? Why have you scared your mother and I like this?" He says to his father, "Should I not be about my father's business?" Well, from Joseph's perspective, no, you shouldn't. You should be doing what I want you to do, or you should be taking this journey with your family. In some ways, it was a family vacation. It was a adventure to present him to the temple. Then they were going back to Nazareth, okay? But Jesus said to his father, "I was working and I'm not going to apologize for it. This is the work I wanted to be about." Okay, but watch this parallel. There are other times when Jesus needed to rest. He needed to rest. He needed to go to Mary and Martha's house, to Lazarus' house, where he could just eat and laugh and talk to Mary and let Martha cook for him and hang out with his buddy Lazarus. In those moments, the disciples were never with him. Almost never were the disciples with him at Lazarus' house. At other times, he would push out from the boat. The disciples, "Lord, where are you going?" No. I need y'all to stay there. I need some self-care right now. Okay. One of the greatest illustrations of that, Jesus is teaching in a house, and Mary of Magdala comes into the house, who he has just basically kind of revolutionized her life. She comes in and breaks an expensive, it's called spikenard or myrrh, similar to what was presented to Jesus as a child. She breaks this expensive fragrance, and she washes his feet, washes his hair, is crying, wiping his feet off with her hair. And Judas says to Jesus, "This is not right. We could have taken this bottle of expensive fragrance and sold it and fed some poor people with this." And Jesus, watch this, had no guilt of the moment. Jesus has fed poor people. He has raised people from the dead. He's healed the blinded eye. He's lived his life helping poor people. But he said, "Lazarus, you don't get it, buddy. In this moment, I need some self-care. I need to take care of me. The poor you have with you always, but you won't always have me." And Mary and I needed this moment to connect. And so we see all of that in Jesus' life. I need to work right now. I need to be really focused on this. There's a greater calling. There's something working through me that I've got to give into. At other times, I need to rest for a minute. I need to recoup. I need to get my mind right. No judgment in all of it. It's all good and it's all God.
Apostle Wayne Clapp wrote, "Namaste, Donnie. Thank you for provoking thoughts to challenge old beliefs that keeps self-actualization from being experienced."
Self-actualization, becoming fully aware of who you are. So, Apostle Clapp, you and I have shared some deep conversations before. What are some of the obstacles to self-actualization? Religion is the biggest one, because we know that we're not doing exactly what we want to do, but we find ways of we either justify it some way, okay, and make it spiritual, or I'm not going to get into that, or we deny that we're doing it, or even worse, we live in the guilt of the things that we've done. Guilt, denial, justification, whatever it is, they keep you from self-actualization. Why? Because you're placing judgment on things. The greatest law of not eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is that it keeps you, Apostle Clapp, from self-actualization. Watch this. Adam, where are you? I was naked. I hid myself. Who told you were naked? How do you have a judgment about yourself? Now, I don't have a judgment about you. You have a judgment about you. It was in the judgment of Adam's, not just what he did, but his judgment of himself that kept him. This is the amazing thing to me. The revelation is Adam, even after eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the metaphor of the tree, he was still in the garden. He was not kicked out of the garden until he said he should be kicked out. God descended to him in the garden. You're still in the garden, Adam. Your ability to stay in this garden depends on your response to your own self-actualization. Who told you were naked? How do you know this? Why have you made a judgment about your nakedness? Now, I haven't kicked you out of the garden. You've kicked yourself out by the judgments that you've placed on it. And so, I know that's heavy, that's deep, but that's really good. Thank you, Apostle Clapp. Love you, buddy. Hope to see you soon.
Mary wrote, when I would feel sorry for myself, which was often, I would expect God to indulge me in my sorrow. But through your teachings and Lonnie's Get Happy message,
Yay, get happy.
I learned that change comes in joy. That is where I choose to stay.
Change comes in joy. So good. Mary and I have talked many times. People, I think, at one point in my life thought that I was in some sense of denial. Was going through a rough season, and I was choosing to laugh and watch funny movies, and I wasn't. Listen to this, Mary. You'll appreciate this because you're not overly religious like me. In the darkest seasons of my life, I wasn't spending hours and hours in prayer. You said, well, Pastor, that's crazy. That should be the time you're praying the most. Listen to me. Sometimes in the darkest moments of your life, when you go into that prayer space, you're only rehearsing the darkness of your moment. Oh God, let me tarry. Jesus, and you are just reinforcing the negative vibration. Lord, deliver me. Lord, help. Lord, send something. Lord, begging, pleading. You're in the darkness, and in your prayer time, you're reinforcing the darkness. The best thing you can do in a dark moment is go see a funny movie. Go find some friends to laugh. Change your vibration. As Pastor Lonnie says, get happy and see what happens. Doesn't mean you're in denial. I was never at any point in denial. At no point was I in denial of my situation. I was fully aware, but I was also aware that living in this darkness is not going to help it. I'm in it, watch this, but I'm not of it. I'm in a storm, but the storm is not getting inside of me.
Yeah, so Pastor Curtis actually wrote in simply happiness is mine, which is, the same thing. And then Bobby wrote, look at life as being a brand new day. Take charge and not be just an observer or victim. Choose to move, do something and not be stagnant. Stand up inside yourself and be empowered today, which is kind of what you were saying. Do something.
Yeah. Doing something, even if it's the wrong thing, is better than doing nothing. Yeah, let's make some new mistakes. I love Pastor Curtis. Thank you, Bobby. I love Pastor Curtis says, happiness is mine, joy is mine, love is mine. No one can give it to me. No one can take it away. These are mine. I want to add something to that word, Pastor Curtis. Happiness is mind. Okay, so as a man thinks, so is he. Yes, I'm aware of some things around me that are probably not the best situations. I'm aware of them, but if I choose to dwell on them constantly, the negative just reinforces more negative. There's no way to solve a problem by using the same consciousness that created it. And so when someone inflicts a wound on us, yes, of course we feel it. And when someone says get over it, that may be the most insensitive thing that can be said to you. No, we're not trying to just get over it. It happened. I will not justify it. I will not condone it. I actually can condemn it. You did the wrong thing. This was injustice. This was wrong. You've created a hurt with me, but I don't stay there. I can't stay in it. I'm in the fiery furnace, but I don't smell like the smoke. I went through the situation, but I don't look like the situation. Watch this. Things don't just happen to me. They're happening for me. They're happening through me. And as I perceive them, they're happening as me. And so it's all good. When we say it's all good and it's all God, that's not denial. There's no denial in that. It is all good because it's all working together for our good. And so that's the way we choose to look at it. I want to give some shouts out tonight, and then we're going to close with our affirmation at the end. We have so many people, so many awesome people on tonight. Ivy and Margie, Ben and Vicky, Norman, Myrna, Alma, Virgie, Emma, Sheila, Randy, Kathy, Pastor Fred and Mary, Val, Lenora, Rosaline, Alita, Taria, Callie, Irma, Doreen, Betty, Elaine, Yvette, Glenna, Tamara, Terry, Reverend Jesse, Reverend Dr. Jesse Harriet, Dr. Elijah Nicholas, my friend, love you, I miss you, Susan Anderson, Pastor Don, Sheila, Bobby Moore, Pastor Gloria and Howard, Maud, praying for you, Maud, loving you, sending prayers and love and faith your way, Terry, Susan, Cheryl, Jeannie, Patricia, Erica, Pastor Cassius, Pastor Curtis and Esther, Anita, Apostle Wayne Clapp, Reverend John Scott, sing, white boy, sing your song. Dana and Hannah Harris, their oldest child is 30 today. Hannah texted me, I said, man, I feel old. She said, you feel old. That's my child you're talking about. Happy 30th birthday to Aaron, my nephew, and Esther. Folks, we love you guys. Hope to connect with you again on this Sunday morning. And as we dismiss, let's read our affirmation together. I am fully capable of writing a new affirmation. This is just the best one that has flowed through me in such a long time. I'm not stuck on it. I'm just still happy with it. And so let's read this affirmation together. I am not my thoughts. I am not the thinker of my thoughts. I am the observer witnessing the thinker thinking the thoughts. Tonight, I am not the voice in my head or any limitation of an inherited collective cultural conditioning, religious indoctrination, or even my past experiences. This week, tonight, I will mind my mind, free my mind, be free of my mind, and surrender to practice no mind. Whew, amen. And so it is. God bless you. Go in peace. We'll see you again soon.